From prison cell to Premier League glory. I mean, come on. It's a story that sounds almost too good to be true.
It really does, doesn't it?
But that's exactly the journey we're taking a deep dive into today. Exploring the incredible life of, well, you know him, football legend Ian Wright.
Absolutely. And it's a story that, well, how do I put it? I think it speaks to all of us.
For sure.
About resilience, second chances, right? It's something we can all learn from. And you don't even have to be a diehard football fan to appreciate this one.
Yeah, this deep dive, it's not just about sports. It's about overcoming adversity, like how a challenging experience actually, it can become a turning point in your life.
Yeah.
So let's rewind the clock a little bit, back to the late 1980s, kind of set the stage for this incredible story.
All right, I'm ready. Let's do it.
So our sources paint a picture of Ian Wright as a young man in his early 20s, right? Just bursting with raw talent on the football field. But, there's a big begin. But off the field, life was throwing him some serious curveballs. You know, imagine the pressure of being a young father-to-be.
Right.
Facing financial instability. Just trying to make ends meet, you know?
Yeah.
It's a lot for anyone to handle.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. It's a really good reminder that there's often a lot more behind someone's actions than we realize, right?
Absolutely.
We see the driving violations, we see the fines that, he couldn't pay, and that becomes the focus. But those are really just symptoms of a much larger struggle, wouldn't you say?
It's like the tip of the iceberg, right?
Exactly.
So all that weight of those pressures, the feeling of being trapped, it led to, let's be honest, some poor decisions, eventually landing Wright a 32-day sentence in Chelmsford Prison.
Yeah, and that's a life-altering experience, to say the least.
Absolutely.
And it's easy to focus on, the harsh realities of confinement.
Yeah.
And those were certainly a part of Wright's experience, but I think there's another layer here, right? A psychological impact that I think is often overlooked.
You know, one of the things that really struck me, and I don't know if you had the same reaction when I was reading through the source material, was the way Wright described that moment.
Okay.
The heavy clang of that prison cell door closing behind him.
Yeah.
The sudden isolation. It must have been the biggest wake-up call.
It is. It's that stripping away of autonomy, that forced confrontation with your actions and really the consequences of those actions. And I think, most significantly for Wright was probably the realization that this wasn't just about him anymore.
Of course not.
The hopes and dreams of his family, the family he wanted to provide for, that now rested on his shoulders.
It's interesting, you'd think being confined, stripped of your freedom, like that would be it, right? That would be the catalyst for despair.
Right.
But in Ian Wright's case, it seems like prison, it actually became this unlikely birthplace of this incredible comeback story.
It's a powerful example, I think, of how what seems like rock bottom can be the foundation, like the bedrock, for something truly extraordinary. And it's important to remember, right? Hitting rock bottom, it doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Right.
It's about reaching that point where the pain of staying the same, it outweighs the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. And our sources describe this profound shift in Wright's mindset. It happened during his time in prison. And it wasn't just regret or remorse, right?
Okay.
It was about something bigger. It was about taking responsibility.
Yeah.
It was about purpose.
And he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, in prison, stripped of everything, he said, all I had left was football. And in that space, he made a promise to himself, to God, that if he got another chance, he would grab it with both hands and he would dedicate himself completely to the game.
And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
Those 32 days, they became like this crucible. I don't know how else to describe it.
Right.
Forging a level of determination that, come on, we rarely witness. So he walks out of prison. He's still facing the same challenges.
Right.
It's the same world that seemed so overwhelming before, but something had shifted within him, don't you think?
Absolutely. And this is where we really see the true power of focus, right?
Okay.
It's one thing to have raw talent, a burning desire,
Sure.
but it's another thing entirely to translate that into consistent, disciplined action.
So he could have easily, let's be honest, he could easily fallen back into old habits.
Oh, yeah.
But, right, he was relentless. He joins Greenwich Borough, and for our listeners who don't know, that's a non-league team. So basically, he's starting from scratch.
Yeah.
But that talent, combined with this newfound drive, it was impossible to ignore.
Yeah. If you can imagine, right, being a scout for Crystal Palace, a much bigger club,
Yeah.
and you witness this raw talent, this just hunger to prove himself, it's no wonder they snapped him up.
Yeah. And he didn't just coast on his talent at Crystal Palace. It was like, and I know this might sound strange, but it's like that prison sentence was like, it stripped away everything that wasn't essential.
Yeah, yeah.
Leaving only this raw ambition. He was driven to succeed, not just for himself now,
Yeah.
but for his family.
And I think it's important to note here, this wasn't, some overnight success story. It was at Crystal Palace where Wright really honed his skills, showcasing not just his natural talent, but like you said, this incredible work ethic.
And the results, well, the results speak for themselves. At Crystal Palace, he ends up shattering the club's scoring record.
Right.
I mean, we're talking an astonishing 117 goals in just 253 appearances.
Uh-huh.
And that was just unheard of, right? I mean, this incredible feat catches the eye of Arsenal.
Of course.
And, I mean, you know the story. Pretty soon he's putting on that iconic red jersey on his way to becoming a club legend.
Yeah, and I think what's so inspiring about Ian Wright's story is that he never shied away from his past.
He never hid it.
He owned it, right? He owned his mistakes. He acknowledged that prison sentence, not as a badge of honor, but really as a testament to how far he had come. and that's
how much he had overcome.
Exactly. Yeah. And he used it, I think, as motivation.
Absolutely. Not just for himself, by the way, right? He used it to, he used his platform to inspire others.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed the world that even from, come on, like the darkest moments, incredible things can emerge.
Yeah. His story is a powerful reminder, I think, that we all have the capacity for change, for growth, no matter our starting point.
Doesn't matter where you come from.
It does. It's about taking responsibility for our actions, learning from our mistakes.
For sure.
And then using those experiences to sort of propel us forward, to fuel our journey.
Yeah, it's funny because we hear about it all the time, right? Athletes who come from nothing and they claw their way to the top.
Yeah.
But Ian Wright's story, it adds another layer to that, right? Because it wasn't just about escaping poverty. It was about escaping let's just say it, a self-destructive cycle.
Yeah.
That he could have very, very easily fallen into.
And that's what makes his message so resonant, right? It's not just for athletes. It's for,
It's for everyone.
It's for anybody who's ever felt stuck or who's ever made a mistake that felt impossible to overcome.
Yeah. It makes you think, right? What is that one thing in your life that you've been putting off?
That's right.
That goal that you just, you've deemed too difficult, or that fear that you just haven't faced head on. What if, like Ian Wright, you could turn that obstacle into, a catalyst for your greatest achievement?
It's a powerful question. And I think, we all have setbacks in our lives.
Of course, we all stumble.
We stumble, but it's how we use those experiences, you know?
It defines us.
That defines us, exactly. And, Ian Wright's journey from that prison cell to becoming a football legend, it just reminds us that sometimes, that lowest point, it can really be the catalyst for our greatest climb.